let's talk about that. Why is it such a, I don't want to say burden. Maybe I do. I don't know. But why is it such a thing that people either do it or they don't, or they do it for 3 weeks and we're all good and then we fall off and then we do it for like a month and then we're done. What is it? Like, I really love this conversation because it's not just, it's a across the board. Everybody has this thing, this stigma, this block.
Go ahead, sure.
No, you go first.
I was gonna say, I just think too, sometimes people think that they could just buy anything and it's going to work on them, like as far as like products and stuff like that. However, when you come sit in our chair, and I always like to tell them, like, you like that smell, that's this product that I'm using. Or even when you're done doing their hair, you like the way that your hair feels, do you feel like you've seen a change in your hair? It's because I was using this product. So we, like, my boss always tells me, Diana, she's like, you have a license to educate them on what it is that you're using on their hair to get, basically keep their hair in the condition that they wanted to stay in, but also the condition that you got it to be in for them. So like a warranty basically on a car. That's what retail is, if you think about it. If you want your hair to be nice and shiny, you need to use this product. So sometimes I just feel like it feels like we are like salespeople, but it really is all a part of the whole experience. Like, we're sending you home, like the dentist sends you home with a toothpaste and a toothbrush. Here's some shampoo and conditioner and a leave-in serum. So it's kind of like we're doctors prescribing stuff, I guess, if you think about
Oh,
it.
absolutely. And so do you feel like are you on in that mindset all the time? Or do you feel like you struggle with like certain clients? You know, maybe you're consistent with retail for a couple of weeks and then I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Is there any kind of part of you that goes through that? Or are you consistent with everyone? And if so, how?
I think it's the ebbs and flows. Like, sometimes I'm on fire, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I didn't sell anything like the last 2 days. Like, how am I gonna do this? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'll catch
Mhm.
myself. Like, what do I need to change in how I'm speaking to them? Like, I don't ever want it to seem like well, you should be using this. I'm like, well, this is exactly what I used on you. And if you want to keep your hair looking like this is what we can keep doing. But also, like, when some people are really like frank and blunt and like, no, I'm not interested, I think sometimes that can kind of be like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't, you never want to feel like you're pushing it on people.
Mhm.
But I think putting the product right in front of them when you're doing their hair with the label facing them, and just like casually just bringing it into the conversation, because this is what I'm using. Like, because you can do someone's hair without product, I don't think it's going to be great. But showing, this is what I'm doing on your hair, but this product is how we've gotten to this end result.
Yeah.
So
Okay, no, that's awesome. So definitely, it sounds like you really try to be consistent, push yourself to be consistent. Putting the product in front of them. It sounds like you're bringing products up at the checkout at the front desk. So that sounds amazing. I love that. Sherry, chime in here on the
Um,
side. On the flip
on
side
the
for
on
me.
the flip side of, I think, there becomes a lot of distractions. I'm easily distracted. So sometimes the consistency disappears. Sometimes the conversations are had and you forget about it. Sometimes you do have the conversation and they're like, oh yeah, like I grabbed stuff last time. And so like you don't think about recommending something different because you've kind of already brushed by that conversation. So you kind of push it then to the wayside.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes I feel as though, like, if I get new clients or someone else's client that, I am talking about something or we have something new, sometimes I do feel as though when I push a little too hard, it's kind of a little more of a deterrent. So sometimes when it's just in conversation and they let the product speak for itself, it sometimes works a little bit better in that sense. So sometimes it's not always the consistency with myself, but it's the inconsistency with the clients. And
Mhm.
you know how isn't it like 7 types of buyers?
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes I feel like I hit all the the no people that just say no constantly, or they're not interested in 20% off. You know, like it's like, well, how could you not be? You could stock up on that. And you're like, oh, but I have so much already. So it's like sometimes you just get all those clients in a cluster and then you're defeated. It's like hearing the word no too often. You're kind of defeated and you're like, okay, well, it is what it is. And then there's other weeks where I'm kind of like, okay, like we just, went about our things. Like I asked, like, do you need to restock anything? And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm out of everything. And then you get 4 clients like that in a week. So I feel like that tends to happen more often. I feel like when I'm trying to be more on point with it, I end up being a little bit more pushy and sales-like rather than just educating them on what it does. So part of it is the consistency with myself and not just keeping to a regular, like, hey, this is what this does, this is what it's beneficial for, and then let them kind of grab the bottle and do their thing with it. I am inconsistent about like bringing it up. That is a flaw that I've always had, and I will own that. But, I do remind them when we go out to that area, like, hey, were you interested in any of the things that we used today? I know we talked about a couple. Do you have any questions? But it's the actual, like, bringing the physical product to the checkout desk to have them just visually see it, I think is something where, you know, you have to be more consistent with it. And I think what makes that harder is that, we're so fortunate to pick those schedules that we have. And so we might work 3 straight days and then we're off for 4. And so we kind of forget to reset ourselves for that next day that we're working.
Yeah.
Our brain goes into cleaning or running the kids or this or that, or making sure we book those appointments for the people that messaged us. And then by the time we get back to that final work, like, that start of the work week, we kind of forget all those things that we did so well the week before.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, you really have to reset your mind and your goals every single week. And that is a flaw that I have, is like reminding myself, like, okay, this is what you need to do because this worked for you last week, or this works for you consistently. I think I need to get the mindset of I set my station up the same way every day. It's very consistent.
Yeah.
So I can, do that in 2 minutes flat is set everything up because I have it the same way in my bag. I do it the same way on my station. Why don't I do that consistently with the retail,
Hmm.
to get that to line up cohesively?
Yeah. It's a
No, that's
good,
very good.
yeah, very good point. I do think that you just kind of hit it with like a routine. So my daughter is in softball, does softball. We take her to batting lessons and she's learning a new way of batting. And it's a couple of steps, right? In how to do this. And I questioned the coach and I said, well, that's a lot to think about when you go up to bat, like all of these steps. And then is this a ball or a strike? All of these things are just a lot to think about. So, how is she going to go up there and think about all this stuff and hit the ball? And he said to me, it's a great question because she's going to practice this swing to the point where when she goes up to bat, she doesn't even think about the swing. She already practiced it. She already knows what to do. She already has that down, and all she's thinking about is hitting the ball. And that's it. And that was a great point, and I loved it. I was like, okay, I guess that's why I drive 40 minutes for this batting lesson. But what a great analogy, just to use that in retail too, to use that in any sort of aspect of your life where you practiced this so much, this product so much, you know the ins and outs. Do you think about highlighting anymore? No, not really.
Right.
I mean, maybe
Muscle memory.
maybe where I'm going to start, but that's about it. Do we think about cutting? Not really. Like once you kind of decide, all right, this is what we're doing, you just go in and you do it. So why isn't it the same way with retail? It's so crazy to me because it really is such a mindset piece that we just haven't figured out quite yet, because there's a fear factor there. You haven't practiced it enough. Once you practice it so much to the point where you don't have that fear anymore and it's just the routine, it's just this thing that I do, then it all goes away and it becomes part of the thing that you do behind the chair. So I love that we're talking about this and how different both of you approach it, because everyone has their own thing, but I do really feel strongly about the practice piece of it. It's always going to be uncomfortable practicing.
Right.
Always.
Right.
But once you get it, just like the highlight, just like the first time you ever balayaged, or the first time you ever did a bob haircut, it was uncomfortable until you practiced it, until the one day where you're behind the chair and you're like, I didn't even think about that. And that's the moment where everything starts clicking. And that's a huge piece in your career when you get over that, when you start, crossing that line.
No, I agree. I say the same thing to my daughter too. Like whenever she has to do something, oh, I have to do this again. I'm like, the only way you're going to get better at it is if you keep doing it. So, and then those moments, I feel like that's the moment in motherhood when you kind of like advise yourself too. You're like, wait,
Exactly.
that's what I need to do at work. So it's kind of like light bulb goes off, but it is the truth. Like the more you do something, the more familiar it becomes. And then it's just second nature.
Right. Yeah. But myself, for public speaking, standing in front of students and talking was always something that in the beginning really scared me. But one time, I used to be a Redken artist and I went through training, and that is a huge part of your training is public speaking. And the one thing I really took away from it is if you know the curriculum, or if you know what you're teaching, you know what you're talking about, you know it in and out 100%, then there shouldn't be any sort of fear at all, because you already know what you're talking about. You know the information. I think that retail scares us too, because sometimes we don't know. And yeah, we know that this shampoo and this conditioner is great, but do we know that? Did we ask them that they had really dry hair? Did you ask them that their scalp was really itchy because it's winter and it's just so dry? Like, was it something that you were giving them a solution to a problem for? And if it wasn't, then did we really talk about it in the beginning of the consultation? Did we really go over and did we really listen? Because I think sometimes there is a disconnect where it's like, I just need to grab 3 products and put it on the desk. But are those 3 products exactly what they need? And sometimes if there is that disconnect, that client can feel that too, or it's like, well, I don't really think I need that. Or maybe, whatever that is in their head, they're going through. That could be that disconnect there too.
I'm thinking also asking them too, like, how do you style your hair on a daily? So that also lets you know, like, what kind of product to maybe recommend to them. Do you air dry? Do you blow dry? Do you use hot tools? Just kind of just asking them, like, or what do you want to improve in your hair? Like, what do you feel like you want to add to it? And that the consultation, pretty much. The consultation is the key to everything, to the whole appointment, if you think about it. But that is true. Asking those important questions.
Well, and I think a lot of us go on autopilot, because everything is so muscle memory that when we have the every 4, 5, 6 week clients, even sometimes the 8 weekers, I think we're a little lenient with. We kind of, we touch base on the consultation. We ask them how everything's going. How did it grow out? How did this happen? How did that happen? But we don't ask well, how did that product work for you? Are you liking it? And I have no qualms with telling people like, hey, try this product. If you're unhappy with it, bring it back. Like, don't hesitate to ever bring something back if you're unhappy with it, because there's no sense in it collecting dust. And I think some people are afraid to tell their clients that because they don't want to feel like they're wrong. you know, but like when you're talking about like kids and being consistent in their routines, like, you know, I tell my daughter this all the time about routines. And I do notice, you know, as stylists, I think we're all very prone to having our squirrel moments, you know, and that's a lot of what my teenager has is she has a very hard time getting into those routines. And I can preach those in an at-home standpoint. And I will tell her, like, this is how I set my station up every day. But why am I not, you're 100%, why am I not taking into consideration that everything else I do is muscle memory? I'm
Mhm.
picking these products up and I'm picking them exactly for that client. I'm walking around to different stations to find exactly what they need or
Yeah.
what I need for their hair to blow dry it right, to volumize it right, to piece it right. Like I'm taking the time to do that. So why am I skipping that crucial step?
Yeah.
What is stuck in our brains that makes us think that this isn't a part of that routine? Um, Years ago, I had asked other people, and one of the stylists that is a very high in retail percentage, she would, before the week started, she would write down, um, you know, that was back when we had, oh my gosh, I can't remember what those things were, like the prescription pad type
Yeah.
things, but we could put the
Mhm.
names. And she would literally write each client's name down, put the referral cards with it, like, you know, and get a stack of things. But she would look back and like, okay, this is what they bought last time. You know, let's see, like, jot that down, but write down another recommendation for something that's the opposite for them. And so for those clients that you are consistent with, like, what can you switch up with them? What can you change that's not dramatic, but you're also recommending something at the same time? Because again, you get into those routine questions. And
Mhm.
I think it's the routine is good in some aspects, but sometimes we need to tweak the routine.
Right.
And how do we be consistent with that every day?
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean,
Mhm.
really, I think it just comes down to being uncomfortable. And, you know, I just, yes, you can prepare and you can prep and you can do all of the things, but you still have to have the conversation. You still have to talk to them about it. You still have to get used to that, you know, that dialogue. And I think the dialogue is scary sometimes because of the feedback that you may get back. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. And I think that that's where people stop and hesitate. And they'll pick up on one thing that that client said, you know, like, I don't need anything today. Or maybe they, you know, they've already mentioned that they have enough of. Um, so just hearing that may prevent someone from going through their routine of talking about product. So it's almost like getting used to hearing them talk about whatever it is, like about anything. Just hear it, but still go through your routine. How do I receive this information? But then I still have to be consistent for myself. I know that you said X, Y, and Z, but here's what I recommend. You know, and what is that going to do for you? It's just going to make you that much better. And it's just going to continue to layer on top of all of that practice that you continue to do. Um, I do think retail is just always this thing that just is a fear factor for everyone. It's almost like, well, are they going to come back if I even offer them, you know, product? I mean, I think it goes deep as that, right? Like, are they going to rebook with me if I'm continuing to offer them products and I know that they don't want them, you know?
Yeah, I think it's all about the mindset too, because like the same way you could think like, what if they don't, or what if they do because they love what I offered them,
Right.
or what if someone, because most people, when something is bad or for their hair or whatever, whether it's like a restaurant that's not good, like bad news travels fast. So I just feel like if you're recommending something to them and they're coming back and maybe it didn't work for them, so now you can kind of like think in your brain, okay, if that didn't work for them, then maybe I'll try something new. Or if
Yeah.
they've been using something consistent, I feel like new ways to like, hey, we just got something that's very similar to what we've been using, but it's a different brand. Like, are you okay if I try that on you today? Like, you know, the consent, the conversation with them of like, I'm gonna try something new. You know, if you're this is something that you're interested, it's right up front for you.
Yeah.
You know, if not, I'm gonna see you in 4 weeks, and I can't wait to hear, you know, what happened at your party or something like that. Like
I love that.
just going with the flow, because like it is a little bit sales pitchy, but it's like you said, it's a part of our routine. It's all a part of our job, and what we're recommending to them is to also the longevity of the work that we're doing on their hair, too.
Yeah.
It's the
Oh,
upkeep.
100%. Oh, I love it. Thank